Awesome. So, welcome, Nirav, and it's wonderful to have you here on EduSpace's podcast, and especially with speaking to you as an international student, and obviously your success in the international space. You've moved from Ireland to, sorry, from India to Ireland, and currently working with Google. And I'm sure that's definitely an achievement in your career growth. And you've worked with big companies, I can see. I'll let you do the introduction. So, yeah, go ahead, take the spotlight.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Jabez. Yeah, first of all, I'm super honored to be here. Thank you for giving me this space. I've heard quite a lot about EduSpace and the wonderful work that you're doing in terms of giving back and helping students and working professionals as well. So I think I kind of relate to that. That's why I'm here. I'm literally the same. I try to give back as much as possible whenever I can. But yeah, I'll probably introduce myself first for everybody who doesn't know me. My name is Nirvan. I'm actually from India, from a very small place called Assam, and I have been in Ireland for the last 5 years. Who would have thought? That's almost half a decade. Time flies. I came here for my master's, and I've been working in Google for the last 5 years. But yeah, honestly, I think it's been an incredible journey coming to this part of the world, exploring Ireland and Europe in general. It's always been a dream, so I'm super happy to be here. But definitely, I think it was very deliberate and intentional for me because I've always been trying to plan ahead in terms of where I want to go, what my goals are. I think that's the reason I'm probably here today. And yeah, I almost have a decade of experience. So I've been working for a lot of different organizations like Uber, Google, you name it. And now I'm trying to give back as much as possible. So I do a lot of coaching in the back end as well, where I help a lot of people pursue their careers in sales, marketing, you name it. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a top bird's eye view, Jabez, what I've been doing and why am I here today.
Great. So, walk me through that process. When I initially chose my master's or my university, it was predominantly because I had done research on Bristol being like a startup hub in the UK. Very good for small companies, a lot of support, a lot of founders, and also a lot of just not venture capitalists per se, but more so like accelerator programs, because you don't get a lot of that exposure everywhere. And I had all those things to tick off. Obviously, building an ed tech, building platforms, building softwares, solutions for the education market. It's not easy. So I wanted to be in the space where I could get as much help as I could. So I had all those little things that I had as deciding factors, I must say. So, what were your deciding factors to choosing Ireland, and why specifically Ireland? Or did you look at multiple options and then decide on Ireland because of your acceptance with the university? And could you just walk me through that process? Because that, I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that, and a lot of people have also regretted the fact that they've moved to Ireland or the UK after coming here, right? So, I'd like to understand a little bit more on that line.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that front when you do say the ecosystem matters. And like you said, there's a lot of factors that do contribute to the ecosystem, right? I came here 5 years back, and honestly, I did go through the entire process of trying to figure out where I should go, where I should study. There's a lot of questions unanswered at the end of the day, and I think I needed those clarity and I needed it fast. So for me, again, I was at that crossroads in my career where I'd worked for like about 4 to 5 years in India, and I was ready to make that move abroad. Like I said, I don't think that was a surprise because that was pre-planned for sure. I've always wanted to move abroad, study abroad, because I know that it's very different when it comes to opportunities, and I really wanted to get that exposure and experience as well. I think I've always had an eye for Europe, to be honest, Jabez. I've heard wonderful things about Europe, whether it comes to the traveling, the people, the work life balance. So there was definitely something within Europe that really attracted me. I didn't want to go to all the other mature markets such as US, Canada, because lot of my friends have already been there. And I do think that some of these markets are getting a bit saturated. So I definitely wanted to stick to Europe as well. And I think why did I narrow down to Ireland? I definitely think it's probably because Ireland is the Silicon Valley of Europe at the end of the day. I'm not sure whether people know this, but Dublin has been very fast and coming over the last few years, and it is growing massively when it comes to the tech hub. Also, like trying to attract a lot of expats such as me coming here. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to come to Dublin. It is English speaking, so it's easy for me to communicate with people. It probably might be easier for me to get a job. Close proximity towards Europe. I'm a bit of a travel freak as well. I love traveling, so it's always good to, whenever I want to, I could go to Europe. And also, yeah, there's a lot of big corporations over here. I was very clear in terms of I wanted to get into tech sales because that is my main domain and that's where I come from. So I wanted to come to Dublin because if you see all the big companies such as Microsoft, Google, Meta, all of them do have their corporate headquarters in Dublin and they cater to the entire Europe, Middle East, and Africa as well. So I think that's the kind of thought process that led me here to Dublin, and I think that's why I'm here today because I did my research and I was pretty deliberate in terms of coming here. And I think that becomes a bit easier if you're a bit more deliberate. Like if you have your
Right.
goals, you know where to go. It's just a matter of you getting there at the end of the day. So yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for taking us and walking us through that. But I'm going to move into post study right now because that's predominantly why we're here and the discussion points of what we want to know in terms of your journey getting into Google. So, what has been the hardest part, like transitioning from the master's program into job hunting? And what was that real moment when you figured that you had interviews locked in and you were doing everything that you needed to do to crack these interviews?
Yeah, I think that's a very solid question. And I think a lot of people can take away a lot of things from this answer at the end of the day, because a lot of people find it difficult, right? Especially in this economy. I think it has been a bit challenging over the last 2 years. I kid you not. I think it's the entire world. It's just not just a few places in general. But I really believe at this day and age, it's not an employee-led market anymore. It's an employer-led market. What do I mean by that? You really need to put yourself out there. Gone are the days where you expect jobs to come land at your feet or your lap. It doesn't really work that way. You really need to hustle your way through and sort of show those skills and attributes for you to attract a job by yourself. So for me, yes, again, I did my master's in management for a year. I was super excited about it because I don't know if people know this about me, but I'm actually from an engineering background. I never really enjoyed engineering in India, and that's why I wanted to move to more of a management background where I take the best of everything, right? And honestly, I think it's been very fulfilling. The 1 year that I did my master's in management, I learned so many things about different business streams such as sales, marketing, strategy, accounting, you name it. So I think it's been very rewarding and fulfilling as well. But obviously, like I think it really hit me like a brick when I did come abroad, Jabez. I kid you not. I think it's challenging, right? Moving outside India, moving away from your family, having to do chores on your own, and trying to, manage life and time in between. I think that 1 year or even a 2 year master's or an MBA that people do, it is challenging, and I'm not going to lie. And for me, it was literally the same. I had to juggle multiple things, right? From trying to manage my chores, trying to finish my education, and trying to network with the right people, upskilling, and also going to various job fairs and events, right? So it literally flew by. But I think what kept me going, Jabez, is I think I was very, very hell bent in terms of me coming out of India, getting a great job. I think I really nail that because I always had that hustle mode on, right? I really wanted to get a good job. I really wanted to finish my masters and I really wanted to settle here. So I think my motivation was really strong. And I also know and knew where I was going in terms of I had a lot of clarity in terms of what kind of a job I wanted, what kind of a company I wanted to get into. And I think that really helped me with the process, right? And again, like if I were to be very blunt and honest with you, it wasn't an easy ride. I think I applied to like more than 100 jobs, to be honest. And then out of that 100, I probably got around 20 interviews, out of which I got 4 jobs, and Google was one. So you can see the ratio, right? 100, 20,
Right.
4, and 1. So I did go through those motions. I did have a process in place. I was very deliberate, very intentional, doing it one day at a time, taking it one day at a time, and I really focused on my input metrics. And what do I mean by that? Am I doing my education properly? Am I going out there, networking with the right people? Am I using LinkedIn? Or am I upskilling, showing those kind of characteristics? So I really think that those three things really got me over the line. But yeah, I think the main thing is motivation, Jabez, to be honest. And I
Great.
think I had a lot of clarity. I honestly, I don't come from a rich background, right? I come from a very middle class family in India. And I knew for a fact that, oh my God, I'm going to invest so much in my master's. I really have to make it count. And I really think that fire kept me going at the end of the day. So yeah.
Great. And I just want to dive into like a couple of questions I have, no, just of what you said, because you spoke about applying to like 100 jobs. Now, how much what was the impact, or how, like, what would you say, like, when you're evaluating, what was the impact of a really good resume, and what was the impact of LinkedIn outreach and networking? So I want to understand, because, like, for example, most job seekers have this question of like, hey, my CV isn't that great, or and even if their CV is good, they still feel there's something wrong with their resume, right? So and then the other thing is about networking. It's again a myth. Like they think that more messages means good networking, but that's not the case. Like effective networking is like grouping the right people and targeting the right people that you want to. Even if it's 10 people, you focus target on them, right? So how did you balance that? And I just want to understand, like, how much importance did you give to your resume, and then how much importance did you give to LinkedIn, especially for this Google role that you got?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very valid question, Jabez. And again, I think I'm going to allude a little bit to all the listeners here today about the steps that I took, but I'll mostly be focusing on the CV and networking, as you mentioned. I think for me, the main thing was following three pillars. I think the first pillar was the job applications itself and the quality and quantity of applications. That is really, really important. This again, and I think a lot of people stop here, right, Jabez? And at the end of the day, we know the industry experts and the veterans that they don't. To be on top of that top 10%, 20%, you got to do a little more. You got to focus on pillars two and three, which is basically networking and upskilling. And honestly, I think it's made such a big impact on my life. Like literally, like I've told you, I think I almost have a decade of work experience now, but I've been focusing so much on my profile where I've been doing these three things consistently day in and day out, right? And back then, when I was probably 20, I didn't even know like whether it will yield results, but I can literally see the momentum right now in terms of I'm getting a lot of momentum from these three activities that I have done before, and I literally do it now as well. Just to deep dive into your question, Jabez, I think a CV is very important, right? At the end of the day, um, like that's literally the first thing a recruiter is going to see, and they're going to see hundreds of it, right? So you really need to be very strategic and deliberate in terms of what your CV should look like. So I did put a lot of focus on that. A lot of people make this mistake where they have a generic CV and they literally shoot it out to various job roles. I don't think it really works that way, to be honest. You need to personalize it a little more. So I had this strategy where I listed out my top 20 dream companies and I literally had to personalize every CV as I go through. So, for example, if I did apply to Google, I would probably change the keywords, I would change the terminologies, the lingo, the kind of job description that they wanted, and what is that exact specified job description. So I think that's a no-brainer, right? In this day and age, you also have a lot of AI tools to help you with this, but I really think that people should get rid of that notion that one size fits all. It really doesn't. If you want to get into a good company, you really need to mold your CV according to that company. Only then will you get shortlisted, right? We all know about the ATS, right? It's nobody's best friend at the end of the day. So you really need to make sure that your CV goes through the ATS and gets you on top of the pile. So that is to do with the first pillar, which is the job applications. And I really did that. I really customized my CV according to each and every job that I applied. The second thing that you asked for was the networking. I was very deliberate about my networking. I've put a lot of effort into my LinkedIn because I know that LinkedIn, the first impression matters, right? Whoever's
Right.
looking you up, it's probably going to be LinkedIn. Sometimes that's even faster than your CV. Before I get your CV, I
Mm.
can just like stalk you on LinkedIn, to be honest. So I think everybody needs to put their best foot forward in LinkedIn because you're going to be noticed by a lot of, say, managers, hiring recruiters, etc. So I did polish my LinkedIn a lot before coming here. I focused on the basics such as bio and about me, etc. But I also went very, very deep in terms of getting testimonials, in terms of getting those impact metrics, writing a lot about my what I've done previously in my previous roles, how have I got that impact, etc. And I think that really got me a lot of eyeballs. The second thing that I did was I started connecting to a lot of people within the community, and that literally changed my algorithm, right? I started connecting to a lot of people who are into sales because, again, I knew that I wanted to be an account manager at the end of the day. So I started going after my target audience, connecting to a lot of people, having meaningful conversations. As you mentioned, like, there's no point at just doing a one size fits all, and you need to give and take. That's exactly how a relationship works, right? So I started building those pockets of relationships with people. Last but not the least, I think referrals are your easiest way to get your foot into the door, right? I literally had a list, I had an Excel sheet, and I literally used to ask people for referrals. Again, it's not as simple as, hey, give me a referral. I think that's the most stupidest thing anybody can do. It's more about connecting with people, talking about something meaningful. And I think that legit helped me because it literally got my CV to the top of the pile because I did have a referral. And referrals are your easiest way to get your foot into the door. And I think a lot of people are very shy to ask for referrals, or they haven't built that muscle yet to reach
Yeah.
out to people and have that meaningful conversation. But I think those are the two main things that I focused on, Jabez. I know that these three pillars are very, very important. And I know for a fact that anybody who does these three pillars consistently will get a job. It's just a matter of when. But I think you really need to carry it forward and have these three things in mind. So you're holistically growing personally and professionally, right? At the end of the day, I really gamified the entire process. I treated the whole job search process as a part of my 9 to 5, and I legit think that helped me with the job hunt.
Right. Just saying, talking about referrals and so on. I'm sure after this webinar, you'll definitely get people hitting you up for referrals. A lot of people will be messaging you, but more on that. Like, so for example, the thing is, we expect or we feel like we're entitled to people responding to us on LinkedIn just because we message them, just because they've seen our messages, right? A lot of people, what happens is they message them, and I hear students coming back and being like, I messaged them and they never replied. I uh, commented on their post and they've seen everything, they've accepted my friend request, but they've not replied back to my message. So, what did you do differently to actually grab the attention and gain that response or gain somebody's response or reply in LinkedIn for the Google referral? And then if you could just also go into the details of how that kind of fast tracked your interview process and how many rounds did you have into your Google interview and that will kind of help sum up your interviewing process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was very strategic about my about me reaching out to certain people, and I definitely used LinkedIn to its fullest, literally, right? So I did study at University College Dublin, which is a college, which is the university that I studied here in Dublin. And the best part is, if you go to LinkedIn and you go to the university's page, if you go to the people, you can literally see who all studied there. So this was my point of reference. This was where I could probably talk to them, and I can talk to them as an alumni because they have finished studying there. So I think that's the first frame of reference that I probably took, and it really helped me. The second frame of reference is being genuinely interested in them, right? At the end of the day, when I do message people, I do have a genuine interest in terms of learning from them. Probably, say, for example, I did message somebody in Google. I would probably ask them very specific questions in terms of, what is Google's culture like? Like, I've heard so many things about Google's wonderful culture. What does that look like? Or if somebody has a role which I am, which is my dream role, and I want to go for it, I'll probably ask them for a coffee chat just so that I can learn a little bit more about the role. Like, what are the impact metrics? What are the things you need to achieve? What are the skills even for you to excel in that role? So I think I got, again, I'm from a sales background, so this comes a little bit easy to me where I can meaningfully connect with people. I can ask the right questions. I can have the conversation flowing and building genuine rapport with people. I think that's something which is very, very important, right? It's a give and take at the end of the day, as you mentioned. And I think people also need to be mindful about the law of averages, right? At the end of the day, you know for a fact that if you message, say, 10 people, and even if they've received the message, maybe 10 of them haven't opened LinkedIn today, right? They've not even seen your message. Maybe only four of them have seen your message, and maybe two of them are just busy in their day to day life and they're just a bit stressed out. So people also need to understand the law of averages. Like, it doesn't mean that all 10 should be respond to you. So people shouldn't have that entitlement. It's more of giving and taking back. As you mentioned, for me, it's always about give and take, and I always try to help a lot of people as much as I can when it comes to their careers. So I think that's something which I did a bit differently. Again, that's just the top level in terms of what I did differently. Now, pushing the conversation more into a Google angle, I did have four interviews in Google, so I think that is a very wonderful experience where I learned a lot in terms of how does one of the most top companies do their interviews. So I did have four interviews, and I did prep really hard for it. I'm not gonna
You mean
lie.
4 rounds of interviews, or did you
Four
also?
rounds. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a bit of a
So
challenge
did
to
you?
get into Google.
It was your
Yeah.
first time attempting to get into Google, or do you already
Nope.
attempted and got rejected for other roles?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it's the second or third time that I'm applying to Google, to be honest. It's not easy getting into the top FAANG companies, right? At the end of the day, whether you look at a Google or a Microsoft or an Amazon, it is super challenging to get into it. And I think it's the second time that I applied to Google that I got through. Obviously, it's a lot of hard work and dedication at the end of the day. Like, I have been working for a few years in India, as I mentioned. I did my master's. So I think everything kept piling up to that ultimate moment, and it really did help me. But also, it's a little bit to do with luck and timing as well, right? At the end of the day. So yeah, I think that it was those two factors that really helped me get into Google. And obviously, it doesn't mean that I didn't prep. I don't think I've ever prepped harder for an interview compared to Google. I think Google is one of the most hardest interviews that I had to crack. And I did prep really, really hard to get here where I
So
am
what was
today.
it? What was the gaps in between? Like, for example, after you got rejected the first time to second time, did you apply immediately, or did you keep in touch with people, or how was like? Do you have like a 6 month cooling period? What was it like?
Yeah, in Google, you have a 3 month cooling period. And again, when I applied, it was probably 6 months back when I was still studying in the university. So that's probably one of the major reasons why I didn't get called in for an interview because I was still studying. And as you know, when you're abroad, you do have a lot of visa issues. You need to figure out and go through that motion one by one in terms of getting that student visa and then progressing to a work visa as well. So yeah, I did give it some time to cool off before I applied again. But I think, like I said, Jabez, I literally, again, just for people to know this a little better, my course was probably from September to September, as the usual master's courses are. I started applying for jobs probably 5 months before my course got over. So I did have a lot of time to introspect, to work on my profile, to build up my CV, to connect with people, to upskill. So for me, 5 months was just all about that. I knew for a fact that I wanted to get a good job, but for me, that literally took 4 to 5 months, right? So it's not like I just finished my university and I got hired. I did put a lot of hard work between when I finished the education as well.
Right. And in terms of this entire process of interviewing, like from obviously you had multiple rounds. You said 4 rounds that you had. Could you break it down into like what were the things that they assessed you on? And obviously you were going into a non-tech role,
Yeah.
but even though you were going into a non-tech role, like how did they evaluate you, or and what resources did you use to prep to get into Google?
Yeah, I can literally hear three questions from that question, so I'll probably take it one by one. Obviously, Google is challenging. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I think the first thing that, again, just to like tell a little bit about the interview process, there were four interviews. The first one was a bit more informal and it was a bit more generic. It was a little bit about me, where do I come from, what are my motivations, my skills. So it has a lot to do with my history in terms of where did I work, where did I study, what all have I done, my past. I think it was mostly that. So that was the first round. And again, this might differ for every company, but this is what Google does, right? For me, second round was mostly critical reasoning. I think that's very important when it comes to Google, and how your critical thinking, how you're able to problem solve. So every company has different facets in terms of what they're interested in. In Google, definitely this is important, right? Problem solving and the ability for you to think critically. So that was my second interview. And again, it was generic. It was about my experience. It was a little bit about sales and marketing, because obviously this role is mostly sales, but a little bit of marketing as well. There were a lot of behavioral questions. There were a lot of situational questions. And I did use a lot of methods such as the STAR method, etc., to answer those questions in a very precise manner. So that was the second round. The third round was very role related. That's what it's called. It was very sales and marketing heavy. So it was more about my experience in sales. What kind of impact metrics have I driven? How much quota have I attained in terms of targets? Do I have those sales skills that they look for in a salesperson? What are those sales skills? Communication, the ability for you to handle rejections, negotiation, influence, persuasion, how do you close, etc. So I think those things are very important. Do you have that emotional maturity when it comes to sales and the ability to handle rejections? So it was mostly a little bit about that. I also had a mock role play where I literally had to talk to the interviewer as if I am selling to an actual client. That is actually
Right.
super interesting. And I did get deeper in terms of what are the Google's products, who are its competitors, what are the use case scenarios in terms of, say, B2B when it comes to Google. So that was the third round. The fourth round was mostly culture and leadership. So more about, are you going to be attuned in terms of Google's culture? I think for Google, culture fit is a very, very important thing when it comes to Google. Like, I'm sure you'd have heard that Google has one of the best
Yeah.
cultures in the world, and I completely attest to that. Like, it's incredible being a part of that culture. Like, it's living, it's vibrant, it's super nice. But yeah, I think that's more about your values, whether you match in terms of Google's values. Leadership, what have you done outside your previous roles in the past? What drives you in terms of your values and motivations? So I think those are some of the things that they did ask me in their interviews. Again, I tried putting it all in a nutshell, and I hope that worked for all the viewers today. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a glimpse of exactly how a Google interview works. So yeah.
Well, would you be able to share like maybe a sample of like your resume that you used and stuff? Like we could add in the description when we upload it to the YouTube video. If there's any material that you can like provide us for free, which helped, of course,
100%. Yeah,
and
I
people
still.
will connect with you as well, and I'm sure, because they can search up on LinkedIn, and that can help in terms of connecting with you, trying to understand more in detail, more in depth about how things work or what things can be in terms of an interview prep. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you was Google has a lot of interview prep material that is free, AI prep and all that prep stuff, which is which is available to anyone actually. And not a lot of people know about it. But did you use any of those, like the mock interviewing and all the technique? And there's a career path finder to find your best role. And so, did you use all those no assets that Google has, or how did you go about it?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, yeah, coming to your first question, absolutely, I can definitely help people out over here who's viewing this amazing webinar that we have. I'm usually pretty active in LinkedIn. I'm super proactive in LinkedIn. So anybody who wants to reach out to me, Nirvan, that's my name, Nirvan. And yeah, we can definitely upload the resume as well. I do have the resume that I did apply to Google, so I can definitely send that to you. It's a PDF format, so maybe that can help a lot of viewers. Again, bear in mind, I do come from a sales background, so it is a sales CV at the end of the day. But yeah, if anybody is interested to get into sales, I definitely think that that would help. And yeah, I think you're very right, Jabez, in that Google does support you a lot. Like you said, we have a lot of amazing websites, even when it comes to AI, right? I think Google has a lot of AI certifications. Google has something called Skillshop, where it does give you a lot of Google Ads certifications, display, etc. So I did a few basic certifications when it comes to learning Google Ads. There's also a very simple Google Digital Garage certification for anybody who wants to get into Google and basically just know the in and outs in terms of Google Ads. So yeah, there are quite a few websites, and Google is super helpful. So I did all my research that I did was literally I Googled it, right? At the end of the day, so I learned about its values. I learned about the rhythm of the organization. I did some of the certifications because I think that really helps you with answering some of the curveball questions that they throw at you. So definitely, I wanted to learn a little bit about the tech as well in terms of how does Google Ads work, what kind of metrics do they use, and what are the use case scenarios that a B2B company uses. So yes, I did all of the research using all the free resources that Google has. They're very kind to have all these amazing resources, and I think anybody can access it, to be honest, whoever wants to apply to Google.
And a lot of people struggle in communicating in an interview setting, right? So
Yeah.
most international students, that's a big facet of like why they fail in an interview is because either they didn't understand the question properly, or they understood it in such a way that no, they've kind of like they've answered it deviating from exactly what the recruiter wants. And you also come from India, so could you kind of highlight on how did you specifically navigate through those challenges, and how did you communicate better, or how did you prepare yourself in a way that you could communicate effectively for the Irish market?
Yeah.
Because that's very important. Whether it be the vocabulary you use or the sentence structures that like the way you speak, how did you improve on those dynamics, like from moving from India?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think a lot of international students have this issue, right, where they're so in tuned with their country, but when they come out, they really need to adapt to these norms. Basically, the way you speak, the lingo, and the kind of challenges that people have over here is very different, etc. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think one thing that I did extremely well, I don't think a lot of people do this, but honestly, it does give them an upper hand and an advantage, is mock interviews, literally. I think I was super blessed to be with an amazing circle back in college, and I think we kept ourselves very accountable. I literally used to do mock interviews with some of my friends, again, who were super serious about their career, right? It does help when there's some amount of accountability to it, and I think it's the perfect ground for making mistakes. Like you'd want to do a few mock interviews. Either it can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be your seniors, it can even be your colleagues at the end of the day, right? I really think that takes the edge off and the pressure off, because you can make these mistakes. I would rather do these mistakes in a mock interview rather than make it in an interview and not get the job. So I think that's something which I did really well. The second thing is, yeah, you're absolutely right. The communication skill is one of the most important things people need to nail when you go for an interview at the end of the day, because it is different where we come from. Like India and Ireland are like poles apart, right? At the end of the day. So I think just observing people, just observing how they talk, the lingo, the kind of challenges they have, etc. I think that genuinely helps. And a lot of people make this mistake of not adapting their language. So for me, it was all about observing. I did make a lot of Irish friends on the way. They really helped in terms of shaping those conversations. And again, like trial and error. Literally, like I said, I've been through what, 20 interviews. I can bet you, Jabez. I think my first interview was terrible, but my 20th one was insane. You know that, right? So
Yeah.
it's all about trying to take it as a failure and then learning from it, getting better and better. And you could literally use the mirror in front of you. You could literally record yourself speaking. But I think that's very, very important, because I think that's a big challenge for anybody who moves abroad. They really need to work on their communication, because it does land you some good interviews and roles. And you don't want to mess up those interviews, because it's not every day that these companies knock at your door. But when they do, you need to be able to take it, and you need to be
Right.
able to grab those opportunities for sure. And again, it's all trial and error, it's all testing. I'm not telling you that I'm very, very fluent when it comes to communication, but I am learning every day. I am getting better at it. And again, I think that's a prerequisite for me, right? I am in sales. I do talk to customers day in and day out. So I think it's very important for me to like nail that one aspect, and that's something which is within my control. I would definitely take that. So yeah.
Great, because I mean, when I moved to the UK, and I mean, obviously, I was working with companies in the US and so on and so forth. So like, the whole dynamics or how they communicate in different countries was completely different. So the the best thing that I did was, I think I just went ahead and applied to so many jobs that I got so many interviews booked. Like I remember there was a week where I got like 16 interviews. I attended
Wow,
16
that's
interviews in
insane.
one week, right? And that
Yeah.
month I know that I applied to 656 jobs. So and what generally happens is like in that span of one week, 16 interviews, I know I wasn't going to get selected for every role there. So the ones that I didn't get selected for the next round and so on, I just took it as a learning stride. So I was able to fail in those interviews to make sure that the right company, when the right company came or when the right opportunity came knocking, I was already ready. But oftentimes, most job seekers I see is like they start self eliminating themselves in terms of like, oh, this is not something that I want to do, or this is not something, it's in the job description as 5 years, but I have 4.5 years experience or 2 years experience. The my question always is to them is that why don't you let the recruiter decide whether you're fit or not fit? If you have the skill set and the technical knowledge and the impact that you can create for the role, apply for the role, because you can show your progress and your projects and your portfolio of work that you've been able to accomplish. Now, um, I want to just probably end off with, but how much, how much of stuff did you have? Like, obviously, we'll get your template and your resume template and stuff, but how much of technical skills did you give importance to, and how much of past learning experiences did you give importance to? So there are two different things. So like, did you just talk about, hey, I can do XYZ, you know, or did you talk about, hey, in this situation, this is exactly how I walk them through, like how you solve problems, how you made money, how you save time? How did you go about it, like, no, in the in the interviews, or even when you spoke to people, did you focus on skill set or practical experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I probably have to think about that answer just a minute. But yeah, no, I think that's very important, right? I think for me, Jabez, I think this journey has been amazing. Like I said, I think like regarding my career, I've been very deliberate and intentional about my career. So the last 10 years, I think the journey has been amazing. So for me, my strategy, again, this might deviate a little bit from the answer, but I think it really applies to the answer and for all our viewers as well. I think for me, 20s to 30s was all about getting exposure and experience, right? It was about going as wide as possible. I didn't focus on, oh, what's my purpose or what is my dream role, or I just wanted to focus on getting as much exposure and experience as possible. I was curious, I was hungry, and I wanted to do it all. Because I think with that, it comes a lot of clarity in terms of what you're actually meant to do, in terms of what are your skills. And the second thing is you put yourself in place for so many different experiences that you absorb a lot, right? In terms of these different experiences. So I literally did that in terms of the last 10 years. And I think that genuinely helped me because right now, like I've literally turned 30 a few days back and I do know what I'm passionate about, what are my skill sets. Now I'm going deep. Now I know sales is my calling and I'm an account manager. That's where I want to go a bit deeper. But for me, all the practical knowledge, practical experiences I've been accumulating for the last 10 years. And I've been very open. I haven't been rejecting any of these experiences. There's no good or bad experience at the end of the day, right? It's what you make of it at the end of the day. So I think I treated my whole career like that and it genuinely helped. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's a mixture of both, right? What you said. Obviously, like when you do work in different jobs, you get a lot of experiences, but also remember what kind of highlights that you remember at the end of the day. So I think I used to do this activity wherein I used to write all my milestones in terms of what have I done in that role, how much impact metrics have I driven, what did I learn, etc. And I think those milestones, those achievements generally help you to have better conversations and interviews, right? And many people are not even mindful of this. They might even forget. So it's good to write these down. So those are your practical experiences. And the fresh technical knowledge that you mentioned is just dependent on the interview, right? Or dependent on the company. For example, if I'm going to Google for an interview, obviously I have to be up to date in terms of what does the company stand for? What do they do? What are its product? Who are its competitors? How do you use Google Ads? Who uses Google Ads? And how does it leverage them in terms of marketing? So I think it's a mix of both. So I think I literally did that. I think my past experiences generally help me in terms of showcasing that I have those skills, what it takes to get into a company. And I think present knowledge is all about your research, which you can very well control, right? You can literally learn about all these things on the internet. And the more prepped you are, the easier it is for you to get that hook and get that job. So I think that generally helped me. The ability to be curious, the ability to stay hungry, stay foolish, as Steve Jobs says. I don't think anybody should let things get in their head. People should be hungry, people should be curious, people should be open to doing new things and just gathering all that experience. A career is not 5 years or 10 years. You're going to be working for 40 years of your life, right? So I think a lot of people mistake that career as a sprint. It's not, it's a marathon, right? So all these skills that you're accumulating, you're getting momentum. All the books you're reading, all the people you're meeting. I think everything, every experience is an experience. And if you treat it good, you literally get a lot of momentum from it. And that's where I am currently.
Right. But how do you handle all those rejections? Like now, we're applying to so many jobs and like, applying after applying, day after day, night after night, and we're just seeing all these rejections come by. How do we wake up the next day and be like, okay, let's keep going? Obviously, I think for you, it has been a different case of like, because I understand personally as a salesperson, rejection is something we kind of have to take. So we take it in our stride and be like, okay, fine, we get rejected, we keep trying, and that's how I looked at job search. I related it to sales prospects and selling and so on, because we get told off on a daily, right? Now on the same side, I want to ask you, like, how do we move past rejections in terms of the job search side? Like how,
Yeah.
like mentally, it's draining, and especially when you're in a new country, you are new to the place, you don't have a support system, and obviously you're finding your way there. How do you navigate through that challenge?
Okay, so I'm going to be super cliche and tell you two sentences, right? I think again, it's definitely relatable for sure. I don't know if you watched Rocky back in the days. I used to be a big Rocky Balboa fan, boxing, Sylvester Stallone. He tells this one sentence that it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? So I think that's been an ideology for me all my life. I think I'm trying to ingrain that internally as much as possible because I know that life will throw a lot of obstacles at you, at anybody for that matter. But if you want to move past them, you really need to build up your resilience levels. You really need to be mentally stronger and emotionally grounded as well. So I think that really gave me a lot of motivation. So I generally follow that Rocky quote. And I think, and again, I think one more sentence I can probably relate to is finding your why, right? I don't know if people have read this book of Simon Sinek. It's Finding Your Why. I think if your why is really, really strong, you can get through anything, right? Now let me draw a little bit of parallel in terms of what I said. So again, I think for me, firstly, as you said, like I do come from a sales background, so probably it was a bit more easier for me because I'm used to getting rejected, right? I'm used to getting hundreds of rejections. I am used to building resilience as a muscle. So it definitely came with experience and trial and error. So at the end of the day, like the ability for you to handle rejections is a very important part when it comes to life. So people really do need to test that out. And I think once they test it out, it really gives them leverage to get those yeses. So I think that's the only thing that's really important. And the second thing is a why, like I mentioned. I mean, expats, when they study abroad, they come here all the way from India, and it is a hefty fees at the end of the day. They miss their family. And again, this part of the world is a bit cold as well. But I think it's very important for people to know their why. If they have that burning desire, for me, I had that burning desire. I wanted to get a job. I didn't know I was going to be in Google. Thank God I am. But I really did work hard to that point. But I know for a fact that life's good here. Like I wanted to settle here. And I think those things really kept me up at night. Those things kept me more grounded, and those things got me up the next day and kept me going on. Like I did get a lot of rejections. Like I said, it is difficult being a student because you're juggling multiple things. But if you have so much of clarity, if you have that ability where your resilience is out of the roof, and you're able to revisit your why again and again, it does make it a bit more easier to go through that struggle. But understand, like, you're not alone. Like, I think everybody goes through a period of struggle in their lives, and if you finish that, you literally come from it victorious, and you will emerge victorious at the end of the day. So I really took it up as a challenge, and I wanted to push myself. I wanted to see what I was capable of. I wanted to see what was hidden in terms of potential, and I really took it up as a challenge. So yeah, it's just that, like, life will throw curveballs at you, right? Like, how do you get up the next day and still move on? Is just trying to attune yourself to more things, and obviously, like, rest, reset, and recharge, right? I can't keep sprinting throughout. You really need periods of rest. You need wonderful friends around you. You need to, like, travel. There's a lot of things you can do to ease your pressure and stress as well. Like, I do meditate quite a bit. I use Headspace, which has really been instrumental for me to be very calm, very grounded. So yeah, there's like plenty of ways how you can manage your stress levels, how you can manage all these rejections. I didn't tell you one, but I told you four, right? At the end of the day. So it is possible. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, again, people have done wonderful things. Like, if you look at the big, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, there's a lot of people who have proved things otherwise, who have done wonderful things. Why can't we? Like, I really think people should have high expectations for themselves and hold them accountable for it, because once you do, it becomes much easier for you to hit your goals.
Right. I mean, we're nearly ending. We're coming to a close, but I'd just like to quickly ask you two more final questions, and
Go
then
ahead, yeah.
we'll wrap up. So the second last question is, if this was your Google interview right now, right here, and I were to ask you, why should we hire you instead of all the other candidates out there? What would be your answer?
That's a great question. I think you put me in a little bit of a spot there for sure. But yeah, I'll probably definitely talk a little bit about my strengths for sure. I'll talk a little bit about my values. I think my top four values are being calm, being driven, being resilient, and kind. I think I bring a lot of genuine authenticity towards the role. I think that's number one. Number two, I'll probably tell you a little bit about what kind of achievements I have done in terms of, say, again, if it's Google, it's sales, it's mostly going to be how much quota have I done, how many brands have I onboarded, etc. So more about my impact metrics, like in terms of my previous role, how much revenue have I brought in. I think those things will definitely give me a little bit of an edge. Number three is just building genuine rapport with you. I'll try to understand a little bit more about the role, and I'll try to fit myself in the role. So it's both pieces of the puzzle, right? The role is A, Nirvan is B. How do I fit myself so that I can do the role really wonderfully? Because I think recruiters are mostly looking at that. Are they capable enough to do this role? And how do I prove that to a recruiter? Mostly about my answer, the way I speak, the terminologies that I use, my impact metrics, my achievements. Like, if they already know for a fact that I've done what I can, they will recruit me at the end of the day. But yeah, I think it's mostly about that. I think those three things, I'll probably double down on it a little more, and showcase them my knowledge. At the end of the day, I think interviews are stage, right? You're literally on the stage. There's a lot of limelight on you, and the only thing you can do is shine. I think that's the only thing you can sort of push yourself to do. So yeah, it's probably that.
Great. And finally, like in terms of all the interview prep and all that work, in terms of the Google interview, how much of lying did you do on your resume? So that's a big question to a lot of people. And I kept this deliberately for the last because I wanted to also make sure whoever like come towards the end get to see this. But I want to really understand from you because many people come out with the list of lies they want to put on their resume, or my uncle's company. I can get my friend's companies to vouch for me that I worked there for 6 months. How much stuff did you have on your resume which were not genuine, or no? Obviously, like there are some over exaggerations. That's fine, but I'm talking about blatant lies. How many things did you actually lie about?
Yeah, I think I'll probably be an anomaly, Javez, because I really didn't, you know what I mean? Again, I think this comes from the background that I was brought up in terms of like doing things, having an impact, and keeping those. But I legit think like sometimes it does give you a bad edge when you do that. Like a lot of people can't fib when it comes to interviews. If they do something in their resume, they really aren't able to hold that fact together when people cross question you. And sometimes interviews are that it's a sequence of 4 to 5 questions, and people do give away. So I think it's very important for people to be more truthful and honest in terms of their answers, what they have done. I think that's very, very important. And for me, like honestly, I think it is all about things that I've done. And I think that's why I'm proud of my profile and credibility, because I always try to do these things. I mean, why would I want to lie when I can literally try doing them? And even if I try doing them, if I fail, that's completely okay. But at least I tried. So because of that mentality, and like I said, like being curious, being open, being hungry, it I had that added effect in my resume where I did have amazing stats in terms of whether you say metrics, in terms of these wonderful things. But yeah, I actually didn't. But I do know a lot of people they do, and I wouldn't encourage it because it is a bit challenging, because it does put down your impression at the end of the day. And I mean, come on, everybody has a personal brand, right? At the end of the day, and it really hurts your personal brand when you're doing these things, and you're probably not going to get the interview because you're not able to back that with solid claims and facts. So yeah, for me, it was probably a bit easier. You're literally like roadblocking yourself when you do these things, because yeah, I don't think that lie will probably hold in an interview. So yeah, for me, not necessarily. That might not have been the answer that you expected, but yeah, that's just me, you know.
No, I mean, you said no lies, so that is an answer. It's an answer to a lot of people, because no, a lot of people come in with the notion that you have to have X, Y, Z experiences, and no, let's say in an experience when they're asking you for 2 3 years when you only have one. Oh, let me just put my family business as an experience. Let me just put my uncle's company as an experience, and I can get an experience letter stamped and so on and so forth. But yeah, like you said, so we can't
I think
vouch for stuff that we haven't
Yeah,
done.
and I really think being authentic is, I think, one of the number one things that companies look at. Like, are you authentic? Are you true to what you say? Are you true to what you do? I think that's very important in any candidate at the end of the day.
Well, great. That was wonderful speaking to you, man. I definitely would love to reconnect, and as your career progresses with Google, and wishing you all the best. But I'd like you to obviously take this time to you can direct people to wherever you want to, but at the same time, if you could just end off with something which is what's something about your journey most people do not ask you, but you think they should really know about you? So, if you could start off with that, and then close with exactly where you want people to connect you with, and so on, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question. And I do get a lot of heads when it comes to this, right? I think a lot of people don't know about this about me. But like I said, I think what I've told you in the beginning, Jabez, I think people should really take their career seriously in terms of owning their career. A lot of people, when they look at me now in terms of how far I've come, where I've studied, whether I'm at a Google, I think a lot of people have misconceptions in terms of the things that I've done to get here, and I don't think that's true, right? At the end of the day, like I said, I think I've been very deliberate about my career in terms of like upskilling, in terms of networking, in terms of doing multiple things, getting that exposure and experience. I think it's been a decade of doing that, but I think people really don't realize this momentum that I have at the end of the day was because of those 10 years of work, right? It was because of those 10 years of hard work, dedication, effort, sleepless nights, etc. So I really think people should get used to the grind and the hustle. because a lot of it is under the mountain. Like you've seen that meme or that poster, right? Where there's a mountain and there's so many things underneath. People really don't realize that. So for me, it's literally the same. A lot of people have those myths where they see me now and they'll be like, oh, okay, like maybe he got lucky. Not really, honestly. I think people make their own luck at the end of the day. So for me, it's just been that. I have been super deliberate, very intentional, and I've always been running after exposure and experience, hoping it pays off one day, and today it did. I think it's just that. Again, I'm not telling you this in a negative sense. I'm only telling this for our viewers to get a sense of what they need to do, because if they focus on their inputs, the output will show at the end of the day. So don't nothing's going to come handed to you. That's not how the world works. You really need to put yourself there out there and get things going for you. So I think that's something which I would really urge people to do. Like, own your careers, plan it out. I literally have everything in paper. I know what's my 3-year goal, 5-year goal. Heck, I even know my 10-year goal at the end of the day. What's my next step? So I think people should really plan out their careers. Like, what are their skills? What are their achievements? What do they want to do? Do they want to get into a sales, or do they want to get into tech? I think people really need to introspect. They need to ask themselves those questions and really talk to a lot of people to get all that knowledge. So I think that's something which I've been doing very well. Now I know we're almost out of time. If anybody who's interested to connect to me, do reach out to me in LinkedIn. I'm usually pretty proactive in LinkedIn. You can find me there. My name is Nirvan. And yeah, I also help a lot of people on the side. I think I've helped more than 500 people as of now. I help a lot of people with their CVs, mock interviews, sales, marketing, you name it. Been doing that. And again, for me, it's all about giving back, because impact is one of the biggest drivers that I have, and it's one of the biggest values that I have. So I want to be able to make an impact and add value to a lot of people. I think that's the reason I reached out to you, Jabez, because I know that I wanted to reach out to your audience, and I wanted to offer that help and support as much as they need. Because I know for a fact that 5 years down the line, if somebody did this for me, I would have definitely taken it, and it would have really accelerated my career. So for me, it's all about that. I really want to help people grow within their careers, and I've been doing that day in and day out. So yeah.
Great. No, wonderful speaking to you, and it's been a pleasure to have you on. So guys, if you guys want to find Nirvan, no, hit him up on LinkedIn. And if you guys are watching and you need external support or job search services or anything to do with an end-to-end support, you can contact us. Either of us. No, I'm here to help you guys as well. Obviously, we do this entirely full time in terms of end to end, and we do bring on and partner with people like Nirvan to make sure that process is seamless, and get industry experts on board to understand how things actually work and collaborate with them real time. Because as much as we provide services, or as much as we do anything to support you guys, we can't take the job and give it to you in your hands. There is a part of this entire process that you have to also do and get the basics right. And we're here to support you and guide you and make sure that everything, all the resources are given to you to make it happen. So thank you so much, Nirvan, and and thank you all of you for joining and watching the stream. And hope to see you guys on the other side, and hope to see you guys also come up on our podcast or our channel as a webinar guest. And maybe you guys achieve something and get into roles where we can also catch up and hear your success stories. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye. See you.
Cheers, man. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.